I'm going to walk you through the good, the bad, and the ugly of what to never do if you ever find yourself stranded in your car. And my goal is to make sure that you come out of that situation alive and well. There was a somewhat recent story about a guy in Utah who went hiking alone. And we all know that if you're going to go out by yourself, you're supposed to tell people exactly where you're going, but this guy didn't. He ended up getting in his car, or rather getting his car stuck in the snow, and spent the night there. The next morning, he decided to leave the vehicle and to try to hike out and away to find help. And this man was incredibly lucky because about 17 hours later, a rescue helicopter spotted him and saved his life. And he was stranded. He didn't find anything for those hours. And the way they found him was, thankfully, because it was snowing, they found his car first. And then all they had to do was just follow the prints in the snow for miles until they finally caught up to him. So the biggest lesson here is that if you get stranded, do not leave your car. I know it's tempting to want to be productive or constructive and to go find help, but humans are actually terrible at walking in a straight line. So if you're really far off somewhere and then you decide to wander off through like prairie land, and it's snowing, or mountains or something like that, or a desert, when you leave your car, you're leaving your only real shelter, right? So you're leaving a roof over your head and a place that keeps you somewhat warm, and instead you're facing the elements on your own. So most people who leave their cars are found walking in circles or zigzags over long distances. Even when we think we're heading in a straight line, we aren't. You just can't perceive it because it's so short term. We see kind of where we're going and it seems to be a straight line, but over time, if you look back, you're leaving a trail that is curved. So you could walk for hours and end up right back where you started. Unless you have a laser pointer to line things up, your path is going to look like a snake. So don't abandon the vehicle. It's also critical to have survival gear and a plan for your car's fuel. So if you're trapped in the winter, for example, you need to be able to run the engine to get heat, right? Some people don't know that. Like when I was really young and kind of new to certain things, new to cars, I didn't know that you couldn't run heat without the engine on. I thought it ran on the battery. So I thought, well, there's no problem. It's electric. It just runs on the battery. But the right way to do this is to run heat for about 10 minutes and then turn it off. And then wait until you get really cold again and before running for another 10 minutes or so. And this is why you should never this is the second step or the original step to this process is that you should never let your gas gauge get down past the yellow point or, basically where you only have about 40 or 50 kilometers left. So if you're that low on gas, you won't have enough to keep the heating cycle going for very long. Obviously, it's quite easy to go below halfway, and people are inherently lazy. So most people don't do it. But again, if you live in a place like I do, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, or if you especially live more inland like Alberta, or Northwest Territories or Saskatchewan, where you get tons of snow, where people can get trapped in the snow, you need that half type of gas so that you can run your car a lot more if you get trapped, and that way you can stay warm. Now, the next thing is to have your vehicle survival kit. And some of the things, of course, should be in there is one of these ponchos. These are those silver sort of tin ponchos. Emergency ponchos is what you want. They are Mylar emergency blankets, to be more specific. And these can reflect body heat up to 90%. So even though they're really thin and flimsy, they don't look like much of a blanket at all. They reflect up to 90% of your body heat back into you. So, and this is what it's designed for, right? It's to keep you warm. So these ponchos are very cheap, and you can get them for a few dollars anywhere. So if you're trapped in your vehicle and you're freezing to death, you will thank goodness that you have one of these. So store a couple of these, and don't just have one if you're going out with multiple people, right? You're going out hiking alone and you've told everybody where you're going and you're going to be safe, then sure, but you only need one for yourself. If you have a family, you're going to go out somewhere, a trip with 4 people, every single person needs one, right? And it's only going to cost you a few dollars more, so right, and it could save your life, so it's more than worth it. Now, other items to have: some type of water filter is good, because even in the wintertime too, where there's plenty of water in the form of snow, it's not good to actually eat or drink snow. So one way to get the water though, and many of us should know by now, that you should not eat snow, right? Because it uses too much body heat to melt the snow when you're eating it. So it cools you down way too much. So don't just sit there and eat the snow. That's not the best option. Instead, keep some kind of stove in your vehicle. You can keep miniature, single element stoves. You can also keep a small emergency propane stove, for example, or a butane stove, and there are other kinds. There are dozens of these kinds of tiny stoves in the market that take up very little space, but have one in there, and obviously a mess kit, or which is essentially a boiling pot and a couple other things that you cook with. That way you can throw in a bunch of snow inside your pot or in your pan and get that water, boil it, and then you can drink it, or perhaps even filter it if you want. And that way you can convert the snow into water. And if for some reason you're in a really nasty area and all the snow is yellow and you don't want to drink yellow snow, then you can use this water filter. And that way, once you have melted that water and it's drinkable, you can just filter it. And that's the case where you don't actually, some of these water filters are so good, you can drink right from a stream, so you don't even need to boil it. You just need to melt the snow into water and then filter that water. And in a life or death situation, you're just going to eat the snow if you don't have this. But if it's contaminated, then who knows? So you should have it. You should always have a water filter in the back of your vehicle kit, no matter what. And some other items: if you have to start a fire, you can use something like survival blaze, which is basically a fire rope. And that's what most people call it, or what many people call it. And it's one of these pieces of ropes that will start in virtually any condition. It will start in the snow and the cold, the wind. So have your fire survival kit within your vehicle survival kit. Keep some fire rope, some windproof and waterproof matches, and a Bic lighter, and have backups of backups. It's the only way to prepare for a worst case scenario. So you should also include dryer lint or shavings from a store-bought fire log kept in a Ziploc bag to help get a fire going easily. Road flares are another essential item. They're obviously useful for starting a fire or for signaling for help. They have another important use though. And if you're ever in a crisis where you're surrounded by a mob or a dangerous crowd, lighting a flare and walking through will typically make people move out of your way. And these are affordable, they don't take much space, and they provide a lot of peace of mind. Now for food, survival pouches are excellent. If you have a camping stove and mess kit, even better, because some of these actually they're freeze dried, so you have to put a little water and heat it and stuff. But you should also pack items like mixed nuts. things that are just right out of the bag, ready to eat. So mixed nuts, assorted nuts are really good. They have fat, calories, a little bit of protein, a little bit of fiber. You go to Costco or Safeway, or certain even like specialized nut stores have some really good selection. So these are one of the best things you could take for the energy. Maybe peanut butter. So high energy food is essential, right? You need to maintain your strength and your energy. If you're forced to hike or stay active to survive. So the man who survived in Utah was able to keep his energy up because he had a good supply of food in his vehicle. So no one plans to get trapped, but those who prepare are the ones who live to talk about it. If you're in a snowy climate, make sure to throw us in a sleeping bag as well, and extra jackets and other warm gear into the back of your car just in case. And you'll be incredibly grateful to have that extra layer along with a quality sleeping bag or wool socks even. So lastly now, another really crucial thing, which is maybe more important than any of these other supplies, is communication, right? We all have smartphones. But when it comes to communication in a survival situation like this, even if you didn't have any survival gear, but you just had a form of communication, your smartphone isn't really the best resource. Because why? Cell phone reception is not universally available everywhere, right? Not every region on Earth or place or location has cell phone reception. So if you go out into the mountains somewhere secluded or in farmland or some really remote area, you may not have cell phone reception, so you have to keep a satellite phone with you, at least in your car for these kinds of scenarios where you're traveling on it's like a road trip, or it's like you have to get somewhere, you're moving somewhere. So, and you're away from civilization, right? Because a satellite phone uses a satellite, doesn't use a cell phone tower, so you can go anywhere and use it anywhere, right? And you can use the satellite phone to call who? You can call BCAA, which I'm not sure if they have BCAA in America, but BCAA, that's BCAA, you can call them for help. And if you don't have it, I highly recommend it because it's only just over $100 for the entire subscription or years of service. So the entire year of service. And for that amount, you get multiple free car tows and on-the-go repairs. So if all you need is a tire change, you don't know how to do it, or you need a spare tire, they can bring you one, they can do it for you. Or if your car completely breaks down, they can tow it for free and you can get in with them and pick up the car later. So think about where you live and adjust your survival supplies to suit your specific needs. Maybe you live in Texas and it's really hot, it's like a desert. Maybe you live in Alberta and it snows a lot and you don't always have cell phone reception if you go close to the Rocky Mountains. Consider that and calibrate.